All right, we are live. Okay, thank you. We're live. Bandwagon will just fill out our their contest too. It is the next round. We are at Otey's Edgewood, and it is time for Selection Sunday. They're doing something a little bit emotional right now on Selection Sunday. If you're watching on CBS, they're playing a tribute to Greg Gumbel. This is going to be the first time we do this without Greg Gumbel. It is going to be kind of strange.
Think about
yeah.
That. You know, this will be the first year, I don't know about you guys, but I've said this multiple times. First time I really was like all in on college basketball, the NCAA tournament, 1986. And that was the year Louisville won it with Fergus Ellison as president.
Right.
But every year since that year, I have like gone along with the selection show and filled out a bracket.
Right.
And I will not be doing it this year.
You're not going to fill it out with us like show. You're going to fill one out, but just not as a show goes. Yeah, I know. It is kind of hard to do.
Yeah, because I would go through, I would immediately do it, and then I would go through to my first bracket and see how I look.
Right. Dunaway, do you normally fill it out during the show?
I was going to try to scribble it down here and take some notes as we go, but I usually don't. I usually wait for a printed one. I'm sorry, I was doing this bandwagon thing.
I know.
I mean, it was
okay.
They said
they're
crunch
doing
this.
our first bandwagon next door. By the way, we're at Otey Tavern.
Right.
Right here in Edgewood. Right next door is our friend bandwagon. And they are doing a drawing. So we're going to fill out a number of SEC teams in the tournament. I think it's 12. What do you go with?
I went 13.
I think it's 12. Probably is 13. So Team Texas is going to be out. So it probably is 13. Last four at-large teams.
Yeah, I've got the number 2 guesses. I don't know who I should put last 4 in. I got Vandy.
Vandy's definitely last. You know, is it Xavier? Is it Boise? Indiana?
I had Xavier. I'm going to say Boise State.
I'm going to go Boise, Xavier, Indiana, and Vandy. My 4 twos. I'm going to go Alabama, Michigan State. Is Iowa State going to grab it too?
They're saying your mic's not working.
My mic's not working?
Yeah. I don't know. Here, talk into this one real quick.
3-2, yeah.
All right, here we go. Auburn's number 1 overall. The bracket is there, so there's Auburn, number 1 overall.
Well, there was a debate that because Duke won the ACC championship, beat a Louisville team that was red hot, they did it without Cooper Flagg, that maybe because of the head-to-head and because of 2 less losses that Auburn was going to maybe fall to the number 1 overall, but it goes to Auburn.
And you get St. Francis and Alabama State playing in the play-in game. Winner gets Auburn. Alabama State, a great story, sort of middle of the pack in the SWAC, but they win the SWAC tournament out of Montgomery to get in there. And then there is Louisville. Wow.
Well, that's a Louisville team that had won 13 consecutive games going into the ACC championship game. Pat Kelsey's done a hell of a job in year 1. So we talked about how difficult, and we'll get back into this, how difficult this second round can be for some of these 1 seeds.
So the second game will either be Louisville or Creighton for Auburn in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Well, that's how tough this tournament's going to be this year.
Wow. And do you think Louisville fans are going to show up for that?
Yeah. Also in Auburn's region in the South, Michigan, who just won the Big Ten championship, with Trey Donaldson, the former Auburn Tiger, playing such a big role.
Yeah, what a story that would be. And, you know, we were talking about Vlad Golden, the 7-foot transfer that can do a lot of different things for Dusty May's squad. Transfer from Florida Atlantic. I mean, that's a good 5 seed, by the way.
I know. UC San Diego will play Michigan in a 5-12. I don't know a whole lot about UC.
Well, I'll tell you this. So it's a 30-win team, and I don't think it's going to be the only 12 seed that has a 30-win team. I think we're going to see McNeese on that 12 line. But anytime you win 30 games, I don't care who you play against. It's a pretty good season.
That's right. That's right. You've learned to win some basketball games. Texas A&M is in the same region. So they've stacked it where Auburn will have to go against their kryptonite, Bruce Pearl's kryptonite.
Damn. I don't know, man. The way Michigan's playing right now, I would lean that Michigan,
Texas A&M, and Yale.
And the committee doesn't have a sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is pretty amazing when you think about how A&M matches up with the Auburn Tigers and what Yale did last year in the first round to Auburn.
Yeah. So now they get a shot at Texas A&M, also in the South. They put Ole Miss. Now, we knew this was going to happen, that you were going to have a bunch of SEC teams in there. Brownie.
Yeah, but I think. Excuse me. I think Texas A&M was the one you don't want to see, though, right?
I would agree.
Of all the SEC teams that.
But did you notice, and I know, and Ryan Brown, we don't give you enough credit for all of the technical stuff you do for us, getting us set up.
I don't need credit
But
for
with that said, I don't know if you saw this. Michigan is right there, too.
Yeah.
Is a number 5.
Yeah.
Yep. And look, North Carolina made it. That's a big story. They'll play in a play-in game with San Diego State. Iowa State is a 3. When that team's healthy, that's a dangerous team.
Oh, yeah. And, there was a point in the season where we said Iowa State, it looked like they might win the Big 12. They might be a number 1 seed. Now they've fallen all the way to the 3 line.
Lipscomb's the 14 in that. That's a possibility of a 3-14 upset. Lipscomb plays really good metric basketball shooting the 3. Marquette in New Mexico, Brownie.
Yeah, I mean, Marquette was a team that at times this year looked like them and St. John's might have been the 2 best teams of the Big East. Michigan State with Tom Izzo, you've liked them for quite a while.
Yeah, look, and I'm a little surprised that Michigan State and Michigan are in the same bracket, especially the way Michigan is playing right now. I do think Auburn got a little bit of a break with this too, though. We'll see the other 2s,
right?
But Michigan State really good team.
Technically, they should get the easiest 2, though, right? As the 1 overall.
Yeah, and Michigan State could have been a 1 if they would have won the tournament and a couple of other things happened.
Yep.
Yeah, but that tells you Michigan State was the number 8 team.
That's right, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So recapping, you got Auburn as the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, and they'll play the play-in winner between Alabama State, SWAC champion, and St. Francis.
I mean, you're going to play Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky. Auburn fans are going to travel, but what do you imagine that crowd is going to be like? Dunaway, you work there.
Well, Matt Jones, who I spent some time with Kentucky Sports Radio at the tournament, they did the poll question. They said they were not listening to us, but after we debated it on the show, they did the poll question. Calipari, Arkansas playing Louisville, who would you cheer for? And Louisville won. You ended up being right. I thought it would be they would cheer for Calipari.
Let me say this. I think Creighton's going to beat Louisville. I think Creighton's going to be a 1 or 2 point favorite. And Ryan Kalkbrenner's legitimate 7-1, a guy that's got a ton of experience. And
he's soft. I don't like the way he plays.
Yeah, you said it when he played Alabama.
I was going to say, if you're worried about, at the rim basketball, which Auburn has a problem with, they have a problem on the boards. They have a problem with points in the paint. Kalkbrenner's a guy that can stretch it out and hit the 3. Yeah. But that's a 7-footer you don't want to see.
I think Janai would take him to school. I really do.
Well, the Auburn fan reaction in the chat room is not great. Blake.
That's a tough bracket, man.
So the number 1 overall gets the Big Ten champ, the ACC runner-up, in the top half of their bracket.
Yeah. You get the Big Ten regular season and the Big Ten tournament champion.
And maybe the worst matchup for them in conference in Texas A&M.
Oh, that's right. I mean, just don't ever overstate that there is the one team that Bruce Pearl has lost to 3 out of the last 4 times he played them. Also put into your bracket.
Yeah, and look, and I know Iowa State lost twice to BYU within the last 10 days, but I still think Iowa State is probably, when healthy, the best, or the second best team in the Big 12. You've also got Iowa State in this bracket.
Yeah. Now, you've handled Ole Miss twice or 3 times.
Right.
Ole Miss is in there, too. You've beaten Ole Miss 3 times this year. So if somehow they make it out that far, you got Ole Miss there.
We're about to go live here in the house at Otey's, too.
Let's do it.
All right, we're live in the house at Otey's. Auburn fans, how you feel about that draw?
What do you think about it, Auburn fans? You like it or not?
Not being the overall number 1, about the draw. So let's talk some more about the draw here. As Blake points out in our chat room, Auburn's the number 1 overall seed. They get the Big Ten champ, the ACC runner-up at the top half of their bracket, and Texas A&M, who Bruce Pearl has not been able to beat consistently at Auburn.
They've lost 3 of the last 4 Bruce Pearl has against Texas A&M,
right?
And the great Buzz
Williams.
I always say Buzz Peterson.
You always want to say Buzz Peterson.
Well, you're either going to get in the second round, just to start there, a team in Louisville that had a halftime lead to win the ACC championship, had won 12 consecutive games. But if you don't get them, you get a Creighton team that at one time was a top 15 team.
Right.
They've got a 7-1 first-team All-American in Ryan Kalkbrenner.
If that's the easiest bracket, which I think it's supposed to be, then I can't wait to see the other 3 because that looks tough as hell.
Yeah, it's I didn't see it as a very easy draw for Auburn by any stretch of the
Michigan
imagination.
just won the Big Ten. You've got Michigan State, who was obviously the Big Ten regular season champion, the 2 seed. I mean, there are a lot of good teams in that bracket.
Yeah, Louisville Creighton, an 8-9 game if you're Auburn. You think Creighton wins that game at first blush?
I do at first blush.
Hey, remember,
But either one of those, I think, is going to be a difficult second-round matchup. We've talked about this last couple of weeks. This 8-9 going against these ones. Typically, you move that one out to the second weekend. It's going to be interesting this year, though.
if Iowa State can survive Lipscomb and get out there, remember they played Auburn in Maui 83-81. Auburn was down a lot, came back and won that game late.
Yeah, those two teams went different directions after that game.
Yeah,
to a
one of the better wins in the country for a while, Iowa State. Then they had some injuries. I don't know their situation getting back healthy again, but at one point that was one of the top 5 or 6 teams in the country.
Well, I think Iowa State really fell to – what did they end up getting, a 3?
3 seed.
Yeah. I mean, there was talk early on that maybe they were a 1 seed, maybe they were the best team of the Big 12. Again, it took 18 threes from BYU to beat them the other day. So this Iowa State team is still really, really good.
But on the upside, Auburn was rewarded for their great resume.
Right.
Even though they lost 3 of their last 4 games, they had by far the best resume, and we were concerned that maybe Duke would get that. But in the long run, you kept saying it wasn't going to matter because of the location choices.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn was going to go to the south. Duke was going to go to the east and play in Trenton.
Yeah.
We'll get back to this in a second.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. You guys here at Otey's are about to get CBS back.
Here we go.
So we're going to find out now. I assume who the next number 1 is will be Duke, obviously.
Yeah, I think they're going to go to the east here.
Yeah, so
there it is.
You know, and we do need to talk about North Carolina losing on the lane violation a couple of nights ago to Duke. And North Carolina getting in is a joke.
Bad news for Texas, by the way. That does it for Texas.
Yeah. That shuts the door on Texas. But, I mean, North Carolina, I get it. They're a brand, but they were 1-12 in Quad 1 games.
Right.
If you don't win any of these Quad 1 games, how do you get in the tournament?
Including losses to Auburn and Alabama.
So Duke gets the winner of American and Mount St. Mary's as the 1 seed. They'll get a play-in winner. Would you assume Tennessee or Alabama and all is going to be in this bracket right here?
One of them, but there's Mississippi
State in the 8-9.
I think Alabama's the 2 in this bracket.
I do believe you're correct.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I don't think you want to be the 2 in this bracket. We'll see.
Got to be the 2 somewhere.
I know.
I think if you're Alabama, I'd probably rather. I mean, your choices are Houston or Duke, and Alabama has owned Houston.
Okay, now keep in mind we don't know about the health of Cooper Flagg, and their second round game is Mississippi State, who's very physical and has a guard that could go off, and Baylor, which has some skill. Oregon is now in their region as their 5.
I think if you're John Shire, you're like, what do we got to do to make sure Flagg is ready? So are these games are Friday? That's good. He gets till Sunday, though.
Yeah, Oregon Liberty is going to be the 5-12. Liberty beat Jacksonville State last night in Huntsville in a game that was delayed by a roof leak with all the severe weather that came through at the Von Braun.
I didn't know when I was watching because I had volume down. I thought it was the ice coming up. I did. Just because we were there and we felt it.
Yeah. Arizona is the 4 seed. These games are in Seattle as they'll take on 13 seed Akron. Well, that's a good 4-13 game, by the way.
Yeah.
Arizona.
Hey, don't sleep on Liberty over Oregon.
Yeah, you can see that, could you?
Yeah, I could.
That's a good Liberty team.
I think Oregon to be about a 5.5-point favorite if I'm listing it right now.
Yeah. These are Friday games, all of these. Now we'll go to Thursday games. It's going to be interesting to see. BYU is the 6 in the 6-11 game. They're both, I think, Jerry Palm and Joe Lunardi had Alabama in Cleveland. That's where the 2 seed in this bracket would play. So if they avoid this, I think you probably see Alabama and Lexington as a 2.
Well, and I do think BYU is one of those teams, if you're Alabama, you don't want to play. They play Alabama style. They shoot a lot of threes. And they make a lot of threes.
Yeah, they actually play Alabama style and shoot the 3-ball better than Alabama
They do. Ball rotation's great for that BYU team.
BYU VCU is a heck of a game in a 6-11 in Denver, Colorado on Thursday. We're about to see the 3-14. This is in the Duke bracket. Auburn, the overall number 1. Wisconsin, who just played in the Big Ten championship game.
They don't play slow like they used to. If you haven't watched basketball this year, they play more up pace.
No, and they like to win, though. Look how somber they are getting the 3.
Yeah.
Of course, they would have played themselves probably. Well, I don't know if they ever would have gotten to a 2 line.
Yeah,
3 was probably it.
Late in the day with that late Big Ten championship game. They'll play Montana in the 3-14 game in Denver. We're about to see the 7-10 and the 2-15s. If you see Tennessee here as the 2, that means Alabama's going to catch Houston in their bracket. St. Mary's, a team you're scared to play, is at the 7-10.
That's the team Alabama doesn't want. If they get this 2, if St. Mary's win, they slow it down, they bleed the clock.
Oh, they'll play Vandy.
There's Vandy.
Vandy got in.
Vandy's short-lived.
Play Vandy twice?
They did.
That
Yeah, they
means it's going to
split.
be Alabama, doesn't it?
I think it is
Yep.
Bama.
Yeah, this has to be Alabama by
Yeah.
rule. I don't
So
think you can
Bama, St. Mary's, and then
Bama.
possibly BYU just to get to a regional final.
And this is going to be in Cleveland on Friday, and I think your 2 seed's going to be Alabama. There it is.
Alabama. The one team I didn't want to see was St. Mary's, and there they are.
You said that time and time and time.
I would be more concerned about BYU.
Well, that's
much
like
more
16.
concerned.
if
Yeah.
you play that.
That's the next weekend's concern.
I'm just saying.
Which will be in Newark. These games, they're going to play Robert Morris, Alabama is, in the 2:15 games. So Bama goes to Cleveland, and these games are going to be in Newark, New Jersey, and the regional finals, the semifinals and finals of the region there. It's Duke's bracket. What do you think?
Well, I checked the odds right before we went live to win the national championship before the brackets were out. Your favorite to win the national championship is Duke at plus 330. Right behind them is Florida, and then Auburn was plus 440. So Duke is your favorite to win this whole thing. They expect Cooper Flagg after round one to be back and healthy. And, man.
Immediately, the chat room is saying Alabama got a better draw than Auburn.
I was going to say, I think the South bracket is more difficult than the East.
I kind of agree with Lance.
I think so too, except for matchups. I'm telling you, the way St. Mary's plays will be a difficult matchup for Alabama. I mean, it's not Florida.
Yeah, if we played ahead, look,
Florida's
I mean,
a tough matchup.
Vanderbilt, I think St. Mary's will be a 2.5-point favorite over Vanderbilt. But if St. Mary's was to beat Vanderbilt, I think Alabama's probably a 7-point favorite, 6.5, 7.
And that'll be one of those kind of games that you absolutely can lose, but that's what you're going to get. I mean, Auburn with their Louisville-Creighton game is going to be a tough game.
Yep.
So that's what you get after the first round.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be conditioned to thinking 8-9's a layup. They rarely are for the 1 seed.
Yeah, but
I should say rarely.
I would
Many
say
times they are not.
it's probably 85 to 88% they win in the second round. I mean, you should be able to go on and book your way into the second weekend.
Okay, they got camera shots there, some other places.
They got one.
I'm just wondering, is there anybody on the bubble that we think is not going to get in now?
Do they have one in Austin, Texas?
Yeah, well, I'm not even sure they're on the bubble anymore.
I do not think that. Yeah, I think North Carolina, and
They certainly weren't winning. That's my point.
It's a little interesting that they rolled North Carolina out that early because I thought that they would have held them just for a little bit of drama because anybody on the bubble knows once North Carolina got in, they were going to be on the outside.
All right, so Alabama, the 2 seed in Duke's bracket. The immediate reaction in our chat room here is that Alabama got a better draw than Auburn.
Do you guys think so?
And I hear Auburn fans to my right immediately say yes, that Alabama got the better of the 2 draws. Now, you don't like St. Mary's.
St. Mary's was the one team I didn't want Alabama to get. They slow it down. They bleed the clock till the end of the shot clock. They're really a great defensive team. They guard the perimeter well.
And they beat Vandy.
They shoot the 3 ball.
Yeah.
I don't think Vandy's very good, especially if you don't play them in Nashville. I think St. Mary's will win. I think it'll be a tough matchup for Alabama.
But Alabama in that game, if they were to face St. Mary's, probably a 6.5 to 7-point favorite. I think more interesting is looking forward to the next weekend, potentially in the Sweet 16. You get a team like BYU that plays a style like Alabama. They love to shoot the 3. They just hit 18 threes against Iowa State a couple of days ago. That is a really difficult draw.
I said on our show when you guys were listening to CBS that BYU plays Alabama's style, but they actually shoot the ball better than Alabama does.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama this year has been a mid-tier 3-point shooting team. And Mark Sears is ice cold from outside right now. He's got to find his shot in a week here because he's ice cold. Landmine Believer in the chat room says St. Mary's is 232nd in 3-point field goals percentage. It's not great, 232nd.
Yeah, but
so that means they're going to have to try to win this game inside against Alabama, against Mo Diabate. And
I love Landmine Believer. Give me the stat on how the style they play. What is there a pace? Because they love to slow it down. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's contrasting styles is what worries you most about that.
I do think that I think their region is a little easier. I think the South a little more digestible than the East.
Yeah.
The East a little more digestible than the South. I was telling you guys, though, now that we are live in the Otey's crowd here at the Edgewood location, Duke was your favorite coming into this just mere minutes ago. Might change a little bit after these matchups lay out, but Duke was your favorite. Florida was shortest odds next to Duke, then Auburn. Alabama had the 6th shortest odds behind Houston and Tennessee.
What would a Alabama BYU Sweet 16 matchup? What would a point total be in that game? So when Alabama played Kentucky, the total was 180, 180 and a half, 181. What it would be against BYU?
182.
So about like playing Kentucky for Alabama.
It'll be about the same.
Which if Alabama could play BYU the way they play Kentucky, they'd sign up for that right now.
And I think Alabama probably a 4.5 to 5 point favorite over BYU.
Okay.
Here, my buddy Johnny over here is an Auburn fan, made this point. We were talked about it on our show, but we didn't over the mic here, that, Alabama, Robert Morris, Alabama St. Mary's, Alabama Vandy, and Cleveland, that's nowhere close to any of those schools, relatively speaking. But Auburn could play Louisville
in Lexington,
50 minutes from their campus in Lexington.
Yeah. And I'm sure Louisville loves winning games at Rupp Arena.
As a number 1 overall seed. And they play there every other year in Rupp Arena. So,
all right, we'll be back with you in the house after this next bracket is unfolded here.
It's a crappy draw, I think, to get a team that close to home when you're the number 1. Sort of what Houston got in Birmingham that time when they played Auburn.
No, it was Houston, but really Iowa was the one that got screwed the most.
Yeah.
Because Auburn was not in Alabama's.
That's right.
What do they call
region.
it? Not region, but in their session.
Yeah.
So Alabama fans unloaded their tickets to Auburn fans. Iowa was, now I don't, trust me, I'm not going to cry for Fran McCaffrey, but Iowa was playing a true road game there.
Well, Houston just got the 3rd number 1 seed.
This so you're going to get Tennessee facing Houston. Boy, if you get that in an Elite 8, that's going to be the opposite of Bama and BYU. There'll be no points in that game.
Yeah, blood, sweat, and files in that game.
No doubt about it. So Houston, the overall number 1, they're playing Wichita. On Thursday, they'll get SIU Edwardsville.
Yeah.
What was the mascot? I can't remember.
I think they were just like the
Cougars, wasn't it?
Something like that. But that's the team that when the coach took over the program, put scissors in a framed box above the door saying one day we're going to cut down the nets and go to the dance.
Well, Houston, I guess they did, right?
Yeah, they did. They got to break the glass in case of emergency. Houston's 8-9 matchup in Wichita is going to be the winner of Gonzaga. We're seeing them on the 8 line.
Danger.
Whoever this 9 is going to win this game because everybody will have Gonzaga moving forward.
You're absolutely right. The 9 seed in Wichita, CBS is giving us some suspense here. Gonzaga, an 8 against Houston. Oh, Georgia, your Bulldog.
Oh. Bulldog action here.
So you still feel that way that the Bulldogs of Georgia?
I don't know about that.
Sort of like the Zags there, unless Asa Newell goes off. But look, there's nasty Clemson.
This is a 5-12 in Providence. Yeah. Clemson's going to be your 5. We'll see who the 12 is. Clemson couldn't get in their locker room at the ACC championship.
Look for McNeese State right here.
You think so? Will Wade on his way out the door?
Yep.
Look at Dunaway.
Well, LT called it earlier too. They were going to be a 12.
Well, there was 2 more chances.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. McNeese, everybody had them pulling the upset last year in this 12-5. They got beat. So a little bit of tournament experience coming back.
Purdue is the 4 in this bracket in Providence. They'll get High Point, the 13.
Which that High Point team is pretty good.
Yeah. They got a packed arena celebrating.
And that Purdue team, not as good as advertised. Got blitzed by Auburn. Alabama lost to them on their own floor, but they've gone south.
I did think that they were better before they really got into conference play.
Yeah.
And it's like Michigan got better, Wisconsin got better, Michigan State got better, Purdue didn't.
Auburn broke them, I think.
Illinois is the 6. Boy, they were a 2 seed probably a month and a half ago.
That's a dangerous 6 seed right
there. So many
Yeah.
injuries, and now they're healthier.
Yep. This is in Milwaukee on Friday. They'll play
Texas got in.
Play in.
My gosh.
Boy, I thought Texas was dead when I saw North Carolina.
So Lenardi is one of these guys, isn't he like 99%?
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, where his misses come are on this stuff right here.
Yeah.
On the play-in games.
Yeah, I was going to
Anybody can get, the other ones.
But just watching him on some of these, there was no chance Texas was getting in this with North Carolina getting in.
I would be concerned if I'm Oklahoma right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Boy, I thought Oklahoma was safely in.
But did Oklahoma have a good?
Oklahoma's got to be in over Texas. Oklahoma's in.
Kentucky, the 3 seed in Milwaukee.
I think with Vanderbilt already in Texas, I think the SEC's getting 14.
Wow.
Texas Xavier, by the way, that's a Friday bracket, so they'll play the Wednesday play-in game. Troy from the
Sun Belt,
who won the conference tournament down in Pensacola and against Kentucky and Milwaukee. UCLA out of the Big Ten in Lexington. This is going to be where Tennessee will be the 2 seed, by the way. So your Lexington ticket Tennessee and Auburn fans, and potentially Louisville in the next round. UCLA, Utah State in a 7-10.
Damn, I think Tennessee got a really good draw.
Did they really?
I think so, yeah.
Tennessee is going to face 15 seed in Lexington. We're going to celebrate Tennessee for a moment. They got whipped by Florida today, but that Florida team's the best team in the country right now.
But remember, they played 3 times. Florida beat them in Gainesville by 30. Tennessee beat them in Knoxville by 20. And then today, Florida on a neutral court.
They get Wofford, which is the team that won Samford's conference, the Southern Conference. So they're 19 and 15.
Yeah.
That's a good draw for Tennessee.
Remember,
guys.
they've got the 6'9", balding white guy with the headband.
That is a good draw for the Vols. So Houston, the 1. They'll get the 8-9 winner, Gonzaga, Georgia. The 5-12's Clemson, McNeese. The 4-13's Purdue, High Point.
You tell me if you're Auburn and you're in that Midwest right there, who would scare you in that whole
I was
bracket? If you're Auburn in that region right there, there'd be nobody there that'd scare you.
Well, I was going to tell you guys, I know we've got a bracket challenge, which we'll kind of iron out over the week. I guarantee you I'm either taking Houston or Tennessee out of that bracket, or out of that region, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, that is a 1 or 2. I don't see anybody else winning that region. Now, as soon as I say that, both will be bounced in the second round. But
yeah, I mean, I know they split with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right? The neutral site went to Tennessee, but I would take my shot in that region if I was Auburn more than I would the one I got. That's a doable region there.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 or 6 teams I would have winning that region right now.
Cody mentions that Georgia played Auburn close twice. They did. I don't know what that means for Georgia facing Houston, but they did play Auburn close twice.
Well, he's talking about me saying that would be an easy ball for Auburn in that region.
They wouldn't have faced Georgia there.
Yeah, I'm saying relatively speaking to the region you got.
Right.
Okay. There's Maryland. They're in.
Drake.
Omaha's in. All those teams are in.
Drake's. Yeah.
All right.
And Drake's a dangerous team.
All right, guys. So we get the Houston region, and everybody across the board said Duke or Auburn would have taken that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, both of them have it. That's an easier region than the one Auburn had.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how you can look at that region and not say when you're filling out your bracket either Houston or Tennessee, the 1 or 2 wins that region.
So all you Auburn fans heading to Lexington, that's going to be a tough ticket up there on the secondary market. You're going to have Tennessee there, easy drive to Lexington. They do it all the time. Auburn travels well. Louisville is in that same region. Your ticket market there in Lexington is going to be pretty strong.
You're going to need Louisville to lose that first round game against Creighton.
Yeah. By the way, Creighton travels well too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be. They won't be as well represented as Louisville and Lexington, but that's a good traveling fan base.
Keep in mind, each school only gets 350 tickets, and you have to carve out the pep band, carve out the cheerleaders from those 350 tickets, and then you have to buy them on secondary market.
Let's talk about the SEC tournament runner-up, the Tennessee Volunteers. They're the 2 seed in this bracket. When you saw their draw, we knew Tennessee was coming. As it was popping up, you're like, man, Tennessee got a great draw.
They got a great draw. Again, I think we're going to get a head-on collision. Tennessee, Houston, that game is one of those that we'll see played probably in the 60s, 70s, lots of foul, very, very physical basketball. But, yeah, I think Tennessee and Houston both, if you're a 1 or 2, this is the region right now you want to be in.
Texas is in the play-in in this region, which surprised a lot of people once North Carolina was in. But that means the SEC is going to have a pretty big record number here.
Well, I would still be nervous right now if I'm Oklahoma.
I don't think there's any way with Oklahoma what they did in Texas to end the season is out here. I think the SEC.
They won some games in the SEC tournament.
Well, and their out of conference was so much more difficult than Texas. Oklahoma's going to get in. The SEC is getting 14 teams in now.
Wow.
Which is insane when you think about it. I can't believe North Carolina got in this thing.
So how many we had unveiled now? 4.
Well, you got your bubble teams in Vanderbilt and Texas already. The only other one would be Oklahoma.
There's 10. There's 10 already in. So we're going to have
10 already in, and they've done 3 brackets. So we're going to have 4.
Okay, so Florida's coming up.
Florida's definitely in. I think Oklahoma's easy in.
Who are we missing the other 2?
Missouri has not popped up yet.
They have not.
Yep.
And
Ole Miss is already
Ole Miss is already in. State's already in.
Yep.
Florida's
the one.
Florida will be the one here.
Oklahoma, Missouri, and there's one more.
Yeah, Florida, Oklahoma, Missouri.
So this is going to send Florida to San Francisco, though. That's interesting for their fans.
Hey, Todd Golden's got a house there.
He does. Todd Golden used to coach out there. So they're going to go to San Francisco. We'll be back with you in the house after this bracket is unveiled. So we're about to see the Florida Gators pop up as the 1 seed. They are playing the best basketball of anybody now. I don't know how often that works out, but
they're my team to beat right now. Arkansas.
That's the last one.
Thank you.
Arkansas is the last one. That's the one we're waiting on.
Yeah, and so we know Arkansas is getting in. So, I mean, look, Oklahoma, I think it would be the most controversial omission from this tournament that I can remember if Oklahoma's not in. Like if Oklahoma, they would have been in the play-in. I guess they could have. But if Texas was still out there right now, we would say they're not getting in.
Our Stu says he's saying Indiana is the team that's going to be odd man out. Lame duck coach, haven't really done a whole lot to deserve to be in there. But here is 1 seed Florida. They will play in Raleigh, North Carolina, so they're going to play East Coast to West Coast.
Yeah.
They will face Norfolk State in the 116 game. 8-9 will be interesting here. Let's see. It's UConn.
Good. I hope they beat the holy shit out of UConn.
Boy, they would right now, but if they played tomorrow.
Of course, I thought Doug McDermott was going to do it the other night anyway.
Oklahoma.
Look at that 9. Not even close to being out.
Yeah, Oklahoma's safely in.
Wow. 14 of 16 teams in.
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah.
UConn, Oklahoma in the 8-9. That's in Raleigh. I was talking to a guy at church today that was on his way. Friday, Memphis, a 5 seed, just beat UAB in the American Championship game. Penny Hardaway's team,
they are
a 5 seed in Seattle.
They are dangerous.
Oh, yeah, danger.
That's what you did.
You've got an athletic big. You've got P.J. Haggerty, which is one of the best guards in all of basketball. Memphis, some's a little off right now, but that is still a really, really dangerous
They'll get 12 seed Colorado State in the 5-12.
Did Haggerty get injured in the tournament? Is he
was playing today.
It was the other kid, the other guard.
4 seed Maryland and a Friday game in Seattle.
Extending their coach today is going to make him one of the top 10 highest paid coaches in college basketball.
Still don't know how. I mean, Maryland's obviously good. They were favored against Michigan yesterday.
They'll get Grand Canyon, who Alabama faced last year.
But Grand Canyon, much seed. Like McNeese, tournament experience now.
So that's Florida. Not a back-breaking top half for them. Let's see what the bottom half looks like. 6-11 is going to be Missouri Thursday in Wichita. Missouri fans will be able to travel very easily there.
So I'm interested to see where Arkansas is going to be. I mean, Arkansas's got to be the 10 or they're not
they'll
in,
be in the
right?
7-10, yeah.
They got to be the 10.
Yeah, they got to be in. There's no way you're leaving Arkansas out at this point. They'll play Drake.
Oh, no.
30-3 Drake.
Yeah, they'll beat Missouri. Drake will beat Missouri.
Drake.
I think it will be a sexy upset pick. I think Missouri's only going to be like a 3-point favorite.
30-3 Drake. And against Missouri, that is a tough draw for the Tigers.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, Missouri was that team.
Texas Tech, the 3 seed.
You remember Missouri just a couple of weeks ago, you would ask people, outside of your top 4 teams in the SEC, who can make the deep run? Everyone said Missouri.
Yeah. UNCW. By the way, this 2 seed here is going to be St. John's. So this is a pretty interesting bracket for them so far as the 2 seed. A Texas Tech St. John's game would be a heck of a contrast in styles of play.
Sweet 16, right?
Yeah, Sweet 16. Kansas the 7. So we could get a St. John's.
We're getting a little Arkansas.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you're right. There it is.
How about the coaches in the bottom half of that bracket? You've got John Calipari, Bill Self, and we're about to see Rick Pitino pop up in Providence, Rhode Island.
Who's the 15? Cliff Ellis and Coastal?
You'd have a lot of wins, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so no Indiana. So
yeah, Indiana is done. So Mike Woodson is unemployed officially.
And 15 will be Omaha.
Yeah, that's it.
So that'll do the bracket there. St. John's will play Omaha, and we're done. That's it this year. All those games to get to that bracket, and now it's laid out.
Providence, Rhode Island has got a Hall of Fame of coaches. John Calipari, Bill Self, and Rick Pitino all playing Thursday in the bottom half of that bracket.
Man, that is – you've got 3 national championship coaches in one session.
Yep.
That's never happened before. I feel really confident with that.
And just think about for Florida now, they could play UConn and Hurley back-to-back defending national champs. Then they'll play likely Maryland-Memphis winner. Memphis very physical. Maryland's got a big inside player, is a future NBA star. And then you play one of those teams coming out of the bottom.
Yeah, Midwest, easiest region. West, second easiest.
East,
and then
South.
Auburn got the most difficult region.
That's crazy.
You say Auburn's got the most difficult?
Yeah, the Pearls will tell us about it.
All right, Landmine Believers.
9:30 on Tuesday.
Gut Final Four, Landmine Believer, Iowa State, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida. I don't like that one.
I don't like that
I don't
either.
like that one.
Again, I've got a feeling with the SEC getting so much love that it's not going to work out exactly like SEC fans want it to work out.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see, like, what is the max number you can get in an Elite Eight right now based on where the bracket lays? I mean, we don't have them in front of us, so I don't know how, like, if you penciled in SEC, how quick do you get these SEC on SEC matchups?
I think you will.
Yeah.
Okay, but look,
right.
Auburn's a 1. Texas A&M's a 4. That'd be the first one they could play.
Yep.
And they won't get to play Ole Miss, who's a 6 in their region. So I don't know if Auburn will get a chance to eliminate another SEC team, but the first one they would play would be, what, a Sweet 16?
By the way, CBS showing.
And that would, yeah, well.
CBS showing the bracket now, 14, or excuse me, the total teams of the bracket. 14 from the SEC, 8 from the Big Ten, 7 Big 12, 5 Big East, 4 ACC. It just looks weird to see that still. Some of the teams that are out, according to the net ranking, we'll see when the committee releases their S-curve. West Virginia was the first team on the bump. I bet when the S-curve comes out, it's Indiana.
First one out?
Yeah, the first one out when they release their actual rankings. It's just based on the net ranking.
I guess North Carolina had a good out of conference, but the net rank with Texas, they did, but Texas is so high because of, I guess, the quad 1 games they played. North Carolina didn't win any of those games. Again, they were 1-12 in quad 1 wins.
Let me ask you, if Boise State played Texas right now, Boise State played.
Texas would be a 2-point favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all picks. Pick 'em games, coin flips. So, at the end of the day, we've had teams that have made a run like a VCU, but normally these teams, they get eliminated in the first weekend anyway.
Is Texas the last team in? Do you think Texas was the last team in?
I think they were the last team in, yeah. Yep.
And if they had not done what they did in Nashville, do you think they would have made it in?
No, I don't think so. We talked about this. If Texas won 2 games, got to the matchup with Tennessee, it was coin flip whether or not they were going to get in. So they had to win 2. They won 2, and they got it. I'm still a little surprised they got in, but good for Texas, good for the SEC. We will never see this again.
I don't think so either.
Well, unless we have the expansion of conferences.
Well, I mean, the Big Ten does have 18. It's the tournament expansion probably helps early, but to get 14 of 16 in.
Yeah, we're talking about the SEC. You got 14 of 16 teams in. Let's continue that train of thought, and then we'll go back to this bracket here. 14 of 16 in from the SEC is just remarkable. I mean, I don't know how what else you would say about it.
It seems like it'll be a record you can't break unless they expand the tournament.
Yeah. So we go to 68 to whatever that number is, which people are talking about expansion. We actually get a bigger SEC, bigger Big Ten one day. Maybe you see that number expand. But to get, basically 7 of 8 teams, that's nearly impossible. Nobody thought this was going to happen. Most people thought Texas was out.
But on Selection Sunday, I sit here and I do not want the tournament to expand because I look at Indiana, I look at West Virginia, I look at Ohio State.
You look at Boise.
Boise over Texas I'd have been okay with, but Indiana, West Virginia, Ohio State, I watched those teams play a lot this year. Them being left out does not hurt my feelings.
No. Boise had a 12-point lead yesterday. They end up losing, kind of going away in the Mountain West final. I think that's what ultimately got them beat. I did hear Lenardi this morning say, if one of the best to me at large out there still is Boise.
Let's talk about the bottom half. It's wild when you look at those games in Providence, the Hall of Fame coaches that will coach in those games. You've got in the 7-10, Bill Self against John Calipari, 2 of the winningest coaches of all time.
And what do they have in common?
What do they have in common?
Yeah.
Bill Self and John Calipari?
Yeah.
They used to pay money under the table.
They did. They violated most NCAA rules.
National championships.
Yeah, and then it's a family show because we got a lot of families here at Otey's Edgewood, so we won't say anything about what Rick Pitino has, but he's there too in the 215. So you got Hall of Fame coaches, John Calipari, Bill Self, and Rick Pitino right there in Providence. The NCAA selection committee will never admit that they do storylines. They always say they just base it on who should play who. That's a clear storyline right there. When you 7-10, Kansas and Arkansas, rarely are you able to put John Calipari and Bill Self in a first-round game. You take the advantage of that, and you put Rick Pitino there. They know what they're doing.
Which region, if you're the CBS main crew, used to be Nance's crew, and he always got to choose which region he went to. A couple of years ago, he came to Birmingham, then had Houston and Alabama and Auburn.
Do they always put him with the 1 seed? I could see him going to that region if they don't.
Yeah, I could see him going to Lexington, though.
Lexington is loaded with Auburn, with Tennessee. I mean, that's 2 really, really good teams playing right there in Lexington.
You got Louisville.
You got Louisville, Creighton, and what will be a good 8-9 game. What was the 7-10 game in that one, Jim? I'm sorry. Against Tennessee, the 7-10 game against Tennessee.
7-10 was UCLA, Utah State.
Yeah. That sounds like Jim Nance there.
I think Tennessee got a great draw. Draw. Yeah, whether or not they, take advantage of it, we shall see.
I don't know if it's the regional bias here in our chat room, but everybody's saying Auburn got the most difficult draw. Even Alabama fans are saying that.
I think most people are going to agree with this, and I think you'll see it shortly. Yeah. I think a lot of national guys are going to tell you that's the most difficult region.
The Auburn region, the overall number 1 seed.
The South.
Yeah.
We don't have tip times yet.
Yeah, they'll do that for TV, obviously.
The most popular team to win this bracket, I think, is going to be Florida. And I think because of the uncertainty with Cooper Flagg, but I think right behind them will be Duke. I mean, it is good news for Auburn. I mean, if you're looking for silver lining, losing 3 of 4, nobody's going to be picking you. I don't think.
That's right. Florida and Duke will be the most picked in the bracket.
And then I think behind that, it's going to be whoever you think wins Houston, Tennessee.
I don't think so. I think Auburn will be 3rd.
I don't know. That region is just so tough.
Sends out any stats of who
I
America picks.
Yeah.
The Duke brand, if you're just Nancy in the office, you're going to see Duke, and you're going to put Duke winning it. And then if you've been watching lately, a lot of people will put Florida to win it. And if you've been watching all year, you'll put Auburn to win it. Those will be the 3 biggest picks, I think. I don't think Houston and Tennessee sexy enough to rise up.
I'm just saying because of the
three.
ease of the region. Like if you and a lot of people probably don't overthink the bracket like maybe we do, but like if Auburn, I think they're a better team than both Houston and Tennessee, but like the difficulty of getting to San Antonio.
Yeah, they've beaten Houston basically on Houston's home floor is a neutral site in Houston. They beat Tennessee and Auburn, and then lost to Tennessee and Nashville.
Let's talk about one storyline for Alabama real quick, because Andrew brings this up in the chat room. You were just in Nashville. He says he hopes Grant Nelson can go, or they might get bounced pretty quick. I don't know that I agree with the second part of that, but the first part of that, Alabama needs to get Grant Nelson back. What was kind of the talk in Nashville about Grant Nelson?
I think I illegally asked the players about an injury.
Okay, is that illegal? Or
somebody told me afterwards.
Is there a warrant for your arrest in Nashville?
They're not doctors,
right?
But one of them, I think it was.
Well, shouldn't they just be coached up to say, "Hey, look, I'm not a doctor,
sir. You're breaking the law."
I think Aiden and LeBaron, one of them said, "I don't think he'll be out long."
I don't think he'll be out
long.
So
he will see a knee specialist tomorrow.
Yeah,
we will know a lot more after that. I do think when you look at the numbers for the season, somewhat pedestrian, but Grant Nelson is one of these guys, and we've seen it before. He can absolutely take over a game. You saw what he did against Auburn in the regular season finale. You saw what he did last year in the tournament against North Carolina. So in order for Alabama to make another deep run, Grant Nelson needs to be healthy.
So, but you saw the way that game changed when he went out. Now, look, Florida's the best team in the nation right now. Florida's playing better than anybody. If Grant Nelson stays in that game, I don't think Alabama beats them. But with Grant Nelson in the game, that was a heck of a game. He goes out, and it was one-sided Florida after that.
Was a lot more competitive, but it wasn't going to last the way Alabama was.
I'm not going Colt McCoy here. It would have been a closer game. But, again, that was just – I mean, they drew a buzzsaw in Florida, and Florida's just playing like that right now.
And Alabama just was not shooting it well.
Yeah.
They're not shooting it well right now.
That's another thing.
Well, especially Mark Sears.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sears has got to be Sears for this team to advance and survive.
Well, Philon had 0 until very late in the game.
Tremendous. He was the talk of the nation against Kentucky.
Yeah.
Tremendous against Kentucky.
It's just, and Alabama is one of these teams, we've seen it when it all comes together. But if Nelson is healthy, Sears plays to his ability. Phylon comes back. Diabate was great yesterday.
Yeah.
It just when all of them play together, obviously it's one of the best teams in college basketball.
Sadly, this Alabama basketball team is reminding me of Alabama's football team this year. They've had some unbelievably great moments. Like you can see them when they play well, that they could beat anybody in the country on that day.
What?
But they have not handled success very well, and then you see them lay a couple of really bad eggs.
Yeah, Sears is not the Jalen Milroe experience that we saw, but we will see Sears go 30 plus 3 games this year, and then we've had these weird games where Sears just doesn't play well.
Yeah, and he's not shooting the ball well right now for Auburn. I know oftentimes people roll their eyes when you do the stats, for instance, like the KenPom stat. Since 2002, every team that has won the national championship has been top 40 offensive efficiency in KenPom and top 25 defensive efficiency in KenPom, okay? And people roll their eyes at that, but man, that has been true every single year since 2002. I gave you guys a stat that Lance was fact-checking me on and never could disprove me.
I couldn't find it.
No team has ever lost the first game in their conference tournament and won the national championship. Now, you don't have to worry about that with the high seeds. Nobody was an early exit, but here's a stat for you guys. No team has ever entered the NCAA tournament on losing 3 of the last 4 and won the national championship. And unfortunately, that puts Auburn in that category.
Yeah, and look, based on the draw, I mean, I think it's going to be a huge success just to get to San Antonio. I do have opening numbers on some of these.
All right, let's go. What you got?
So for the first play-in game, Xavier is a 2.5-point favorite over Texas. We've got Alabama State 2.5 over St. Francis. The Wednesday play-ins, Americans 3.5 over Mount St. Mary's. North Carolina, a 3.5-point favorite over San Diego State. Our favorite play-by-play guy.
Gus Johnson? No.
Our San Diego State guy.
Oh, yeah, the San Diego State guy. He doesn't go out to pasture just yet.
Yeah, he'll get at least another game. Louisville is a 1.5-point favorite over Creighton. Tell you, Creighton's a winner there. Michigan, 3.5 over UC San Diego. Give me the Trident. I don't even know what UC San Diego's mascot is.
Whoa. So you picked them just based on that point spread? What's the point spread again?
Michigan, 3.5.
Michigan's favorite 3.5.
Texas A&M, 7.5 over Yale. BYU, 3.5 over VCU. Wisconsin's a 17.5-point favorite over Montana. Clemson, 7.5 over McNeese. Pretty heavy number there. Tennessee is a 19.5-point favorite over Wofford. Houston, 27.5 over SIU Edwardsville. Missouri, 5.5 over Drake. Missouri will advance there.
They'll advance, so Drake is out.
Purdue minus 10.5 over High Point. Kansas, 4.5 over Arkansas. UCLA 5.5 over Utah. St. John's 17.5 over Omaha. Texas Tech 15.5 over UNC Wilmington. And Gonzaga, kind of a heavy favorite here, minus 5.5 over Georgia.
Well, that's a bit surprising. That's an 8-9 game. You normally don't see a point spread that big in an 8-9 game, do you?
Nope. Your Friday games, Baylor 1.5 over Mississippi State. Marquette 3.5 over New Mexico. Michigan State 18.5 over Bryant. St. Mary's 4.5 over Vanderbilt. Alabama 22.5-point favorites over Robert Morris. Iowa State's 13.5 over Lipscomb. Oregon 4.5 over Liberty. Arizona 14.5 over Akron. UConn only 4.5 over Oklahoma. Maryland's 10.5 over Grand Canyon. Colorado State favored over Memphis, minus 2.5.
Wait a minute, that's a 5-12 game, isn't it?
Yeah, so the 12
is favored over Memphis?
Yep.
How often do you see that?
Give me the Rams.
Well, how often do you see that, though?
I mean, you see it like maybe 1 out of the 4 games every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a 12 seed is almost 5 points favored over the 5 seed.
Minus 2.5.
Oh, 2.5. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just saying about every year, one of the 12s is at least right around a pick. Troy is a 10.5-point underdog to Kentucky, and Florida is a 28.5-point favorite over Norfolk.
So people are asking for TV time predictions. That is impossible to predict TV times. This is all based on who CBS wants to show in prime time, who gets a good number. They generally steer away from putting a 116, even if it's a big name. You know, those can kind of be bad games. Don't you feel
like Oklahoma UConn will be a night game, though?
I feel like UConn's a pretty big brand. Oklahoma's a nice That's a logo.
Yeah, I've seen Duke as a 1 seed in prime time before.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's a big enough name.
I mean, Creighton, Louisville, I would almost make primetime based on the crowd. You mentioned Creighton travels well. Louisville in Lexington.
Steven says Will Wade is going to give Clemson trouble. Will Wade, by the way, McNeese was an extremely popular pick at this time last year. They had won like 32 games, and they had played absolutely nobody. They're back again. You wonder if it's a little bit different this time. I mean, they're back again. They've got tournament experience back as a 12.
They're a better team this year. They're better defensively than they were last year.
Yes.
He had another year to recruit out of the portal to bring in some better players.
But let's not forget, Clemson goes, and P.J. Hall no longer there, obviously, but Clemson goes on an Elite Eight run last year. It's a really good Clemson team. Clemson, Louisville, Duke, 55-5 in the regular season against ACC opponents. I will guarantee you this will be in primetime. It's the only one I can guarantee you. Arkansas, Kansas. When you've got Calipari, Bill Self.
Yeah, and a 7-10, that should be a really good game. No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
For Providence, that'll be a primetime game.
Yeah, I would tell you about Clemson, though, is their coach still being mentioned for the Indiana
Brad Brownell
job?
Yeah.
So you got a coach who could fran it up. He could be 1 foot out the door.
Well, who's he playing?
He's playing Will Wade, who's going to NC State.
Will Wade,
NC
State. Yeah. So you got 2 coaches in that game that are probably taking another job.
Don't tell me the committee doesn't look for these side matchups.
I know. I mean, that's an obvious storyline,
and
right?
it's almost like every team in the South has some kind of weird tie to Auburn.
It really does. The one that surprised me the most with Auburn is Texas A&M. That is not a secret that Texas A&M gives Auburn fits, right? That's no secret.
Well, I mean, I think you talk to Auburn fans, and they're like, the one team I really don't want to match. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to play Florida right now.
Right, but you weren't going to have to do that if you're Auburn. You knew that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the one team you wouldn't want to match up with is Texas A&M, just based on what we've seen in head-to-head.
Yeah.
On our website, before you jump into this, Next Round Live at Next Round Live. That's our social media, nextroundlive.com, nextroundlive.com. You can play the Shannara Showdown. It is up for you right now. It involves point spreads. There's cash for the winners. You play daily throughout the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, so the way we're going to do this, I think we're going to do, are we going to try to do a Tuesday and Wednesday matchup too?
We can. We make the rules.
Yeah, I'm
happy to do it.
We should do one of the Tuesdays, probably Xavier, Texas, and then Wednesday.
Yeah, do the good games, not the 16s.
And so you'll have a game where we'll all be involved in this, and it'll go against point spread. And then you win that game, we're going to put you in, much like our pick 3, a drawing, into the tournament. I think it's 1,500 and 250.
I believe that is right. Cold hard cash cards. We don't go cold hard cash anymore.
Probably American Express gift cards.
But a gift card is just as good.
Just like cash.
Yeah, just like cash.
Shannara Showdown there, brought to you by our friend Alexander Shannara Trial Attorneys. And not up yet, still being put together, but the MyBookie bracket will also be there. The traditional bracket, you can play that. All that at nextroundlive.com, nextroundlive.com.
Can you go back to Auburn's region real quick, Lance, on the point spreads?
Yeah.
Because NH3425, who does Texas A&M get in first round?
Yale.
We talked about storylines, by the way. He says Yale will give Texas A&M fits. What's your point spread there?
It's 7.5. They could. I think that was about the number. I think Auburn was a 9.5 point underdog against Yale.
Favorite against Yale.
Favorite. So it was roughly about what A&M is this year, and we saw the Bulldogs win outright there. So, I wouldn't be shocked. I would assume Auburn fans are pulling hard for Yale. I mean, you always want to take out underdogs whenever you can, right?
Yeah.
You want underdogs to beat any of the small numbers anywhere you can.
Yeah, like Michigan's one of those teams. I mean, Dusty May has done a hell of a job in year 1. And a lot of this is transfer players. If you watch the Danny Wolf kid, he's a 7-footer that's got great handle. You've got Vlad Golden. You've got size there. But Michigan to only be a 3.5 point favorite over UC San Diego, that is a skinny number for a team that just won the Big Ten.
Yeah, especially for a name brand. If you're in Vegas, a name brand is going to get more people betting on them than UC San Diego.
I'm going to tell you, Louisville, there'll be a ton of money on them against Creighton. Everybody's going to be on Michigan. Everybody's going to be on A&M. Everybody's going to be on BYU. So a lot of these teams like BYU back to Alabama that our local state teams don't necessarily want to play, maybe you can get them out early.
Maybe so. It's going so fast in the chat room. I don't know if I can go back to this, so I'll just try to remember what the question was. What would be an embarrassing number? Well, a lot of people are saying the SEC ought to at least get 2 in the Final Four. So easy to say right there. You ought to at least get 2 in the Final Four. what would be an embarrassing number of teams for the SEC in the Sweet 16?
Embarrassing in a good way or a bad way?
Embarrassing in a bad way for the SEC in the Sweet 16.
I laid it out for you the other day. I think the SEC needs to be national champions after the year you have.
I agree.
You need to win the national championship. Right now, Florida and Auburn would be favored to do that. You need to have at least 2 or 3 of the Elite 8. You need to have at least 5 or 6 of the Sweet 16.
I agree. I think 3 or 4 in the Sweet 16 is going to be somewhat of an embarrassment.
That would be. I think anything under 5. Well, 4 is still a quarter of it.
No, because I went through this. I think you've got a potential. And again, I did this quickly when we were talking. 11 teams can advance to the Sweet 16 from the SEC. If you only get a third of those, roughly 4, that would be an embarrassment.
Yeah. So I would agree with you. Anything I would say under 4, at least 4, you've got a quarter of the Sweet 16. But again, as you pointed out, Dunaway, there are going to be teams that are going to hurt the SEC's record. For instance, Texas, they're in a playing game with Xavier. They're not supposed to be great. Like, if Texas wins that playing game and they gets bounced, everybody's going to see SEC gets a loss right there. Well, they were supposed to lose the game.
That's right.
Texas is one of the last teams in the tournament.
That's right.
So it's really more about losing games you're not supposed to win. All right, who is that? Jay Wright. I told you St. John's going to be a sexy pick.
Yeah.
Now, Jay Wright picks Auburn to win it, but he's got St. John's in his Final Four.
So he picks Auburn to be national champions of a Final Four with Auburn, St. John's, Duke, and Houston.
But I told you, St. John's, when I said that was going to be a sexy pick, you look at their draw, you think it'll be a sexy pick?
Oh, well, again, I got to see the draw. They're the 2 in.
They've got the Kansas, Arkansas right there.
Yeah, and the one in that is Florida, though, right?
Yeah, it is in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be their problem. You're probably right. Like, let's say that they were in Houston's region as the 2 there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have them. But based on the fact that they're going against what is perceived as the best team right now in Florida, I'm a little surprised Jay Wright's got that bracket.
Yeah. How
John's.
about Jay Wright did not have Florida in there
He did not.
to the Final Four?
Nope. He had St. John's. That's interesting. Florida going out to San Francisco. Like, I thought for Alabama or Tennessee even. Would you rather be the 2 and stay closer to home as Tennessee has done? Because Tennessee is going to be – they were in the Raleigh. They're in the Duke bracket, right, Tennessee?
Well, keep in mind.
that's Alabama.
Keep in mind, Auburn went to Spokane last year,
Yeah.
and they were in the East.
Yeah.
And
they
I
were
know
going to East Rutherford.
Right.
next.
everybody bitched about that, and you saw the result. If you're Todd Golden, the way you play this, because more than likely –
Well, he's going Raleigh first, and then he's having to go out there, right?
Yeah, they're going East Coast, West Coast.
But the way you play this is, hey, this is where we wanted to go. Trust me, guys.
Yep.
I lived out there. It's awesome. You guys are going to love it. What sucks, though, is how many fans realistically can go to San Francisco.
You really can't, because then you have to make the decision, well, I'm going to want to go to San Antonio, so I'll hit the brakes on San Francisco, so I'll go to San Antonio. And if you're an Alabama fan, Newark, New Jersey. If you're an Auburn fan, Atlanta, Georgia. It's a heck of a lot better.
Hey, by the way, I've already seen that State Farm get in 800.
Yeah.
That's for the next round. That's not even.
I know.
I know. But
because I was talking to your buddy Johnny earlier, and he's like, "We just want to be in Atlanta," and I think all Auburn fans agree with that. The only problem is what it's going to cost to get you into that arena.
By earlier this year at State Farm, where Auburn hopefully will play a Sweet 16 Elite 8 game, they beat the brakes off Ohio State, who just missed the tournament.
Yeah, that is true. All right, that's going to wrap it up from here at Otey's. Thank you to our friends at Otey's Edgewood here.
Yeah, hey, make sure you get by like all night. They're going to have the half-price wings, ice-cold beer buckets. Just a great place to watch all of the action, the play-in games Tuesday, Wednesday. Of course, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'll have all the games. Not only this location, Edgewood, the original location in Crestline. So make sure you stop in and see them. Tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day.
That is right.
Great St. Patrick's Day specials. Otey's always a great place to go for that.
Will Haber's half Irish, isn't he? The proprietor of this bar, I think he's half Irish.
He looks Irish, so we'll call it that.
Irish.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
I would say he looks more Scottish than
Scottish?
Could be Scottish-Irish. We've
they
seen
celebrate St. Patrick's Day,
He's more
too.
bagpipes, I think.
Yes. We will be back live with you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, nextroundlive.com, nextroundlive.com. Thank you to the crowd here at Otey's. Enjoy March Madness. We've got the brackets. Let's get this thing started. Thank you for joining us.